The Higher Education Minister, Dr. Nzimande, has outlined plans for the reopening of tertiary institutions. In the first quarter of last year, the sector suffering major disruption following the outbreak of COVID-19 in this country. You'll remember many students left stranded due to the lockdown. The minister says the academic year is not yet in jeopardy thanks to the hard work of various stakeholders in the sector. I want to get some instant reaction to that briefing that is still ongoing from University South Africa, the Chief Executive Officer, Professor Ahmed Bawa. Professor, good afternoon to you and welcome. The minister saying a little earlier today that in spite of all the difficulties, it's not too late, that the academic year is still salvageable. I hope you're in agreement.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on the program and all the best for this year. Let's hope it's a bit better than last year. Actually, I'm more optimistic than the minister is. I mean, I think that the universities are all on track to complete the 2020 academic year. Nine of them have done so already, and the others are all due to complete by the end of February, except for one, which will complete in March. But otherwise, the universities are all on track, and unless something really remarkable happens, that will continue, I think. Yes.
Professor, finish your sentence. I beg your pardon.
No, I was just going to say that, in fact, there's a whole lot of preparations happening now for the 2021 academic year.
All of this, I imagine, is an exercise in risk management and risk assessment, and we hope that the trajectory that you're outlining is in fact realized. But what are the concerns? What have you learnt from 2020?
Well, yeah, there are two or three major issues. I mean, the one is just the issue around the pandemic itself, its trajectory, if you like. And I think that we just don't know about how it's going to play itself out. But what we do know now is that the universities have the capacity to shift into multiple pathways to the completion of the academic year. And secondly, just the fact that all the universities have in place now all the public health interventions that are required to minimize the risk of outbreaks of the pandemic, if you like, on the campuses. The one major challenge, of course, is kind of issues around human behavior, just about what happens off campus and what happens in residence rooms and so on. And we're paying a lot of attention to that, just to try and understand how to work with the SRCs and other student structures, staff structures and so on, to try and ensure that there is kind of an adherence to the protocols, if you like it. Without that, we are at risk, of course. Yes.
Professor Bawa, the other big issue, I imagine, is one of supply and demand. Dr. Nzimande was fairly blunt when he was speaking about more admissions than there are places. In fact, there's a huge oversubscription here. That's not going to be dealt with in one academic year.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure about that. Certainly it's the case for NSFAS that there's a massive increase in the number of applications for bursaries, and that's largely due to the impact of the COVID-19 on the economy and families kind of dropping into the under the threshold, if you like, for their children to receive the DHET bursaries. On the other side, we produce about, I can't remember the exact figures now, about 180,000 bachelor passes a year, and through the NSC exam and the IEB exam, and another sort of 30, 40, 50,000 students who would normally kind of qualify for entrance into diploma programs at the universities, and we have about 220,000 places at our universities. So I don't think that's a big issue at the moment. I mean, unless something changes dramatically. I know you hear that, universities have 90,000 applications and so on, 100,000 applications for 10,000 places. But you have to remember that each of those students applies multiply, to several universities and for several programs at universities. So I'm not overly concerned about that at the moment.
All right, that's good news, and thank you very much for joining us. That is Professor Ahmed Bawa, who is the Chief Executive Officer of University South Africa.